This week on Vegas Nation Blitz, we highlight Raiders rookie Amik Robertson. We give you an update on the Raiders training facility, and we hear from Raiders wide receiver Tyrell Williams and how he has overcome racism in his life. All of that and more on Vegas Nation Blitz.
Excited to know where we're going to be playing, and excited to have a city that is excited about having us.
We are now the Las Vegas Raiders.
Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Vegas Nation Blitz. I'm your host, Cassie Soto. 5'8" cornerback Amik Robertson was drafted by the Las Vegas Raiders with the 139th pick overall just a few months ago, and while his stature could be a question for some, there is no need to question this guy's heart and passion and dedication for the game. Our very own Vinny Bonsignore recently sat down and spoke with Amik Robertson. And Vinny, I just want to get your thoughts here. How do you feel that Robertson's natural instincts make up for what he lacks in height?
Well, that's a good way of putting it. And this guy is just a football player. He's a baller, no question about it. Doesn't matter how tall he is or not. He knows how to play football, and he makes up for the lack of height with great ball awareness, toughness, physicality. He's going to give up a few inches, but when he's bodying somebody up at the line of scrimmage and interrupting their flow off of the line of scrimmage into their pattern, that changes things. And then he's got not just the instincts and vision, ball tracking skills. He's got the want to. You have to want to go out there and take chances, and sometimes you're going to look silly by putting yourself out there like that. But he doesn't care, and he makes plays as a result. And on a Raiders team that needs to start creating more turnovers, he's a ball hawk, a guy that's going to get his hands on balls, come up with interceptions, tips that other guys can come up with for interceptions, and really as a physical tackler, probably come up with some fumbles as well. So he's kind of the whole package except for the height.
Do we see Mick and Gruden, really taking a liking to this guy and possibly giving him a starting position when it comes time for these guys to step on the field?
Well, I know John Gruden loves all these draft picks, but he's got a little soft spot in his heart for Amik because of the toughness and because of the tenacity. And Mike Mayock says, he plays pissed off because he's 5'8". He wakes up mad because he's 5'8", and he plays with that anger and that ferocity, when he gets on the football field. And I think that he's going to be given a chance. And when I talk to him about it, they're training him right now, in virtual OTAs as a slot cornerback. And right now, that position is being manned by LaMarcus Joyner. LaMarcus had kind of a rough year at that position last year. So I think Amik, if he can come in and prove he can play right off the bat, I think he's going to see the field early. And I wouldn't be surprised if eventually he nudges LaMarcus out. And that's probably going to happen down the road as it is, but it could happen sooner rather than later.
All right, well, it'll be interesting to see what happens with those two guys come game time. Vinny, thank you so much. Let's go ahead now and check in with social media manager for the Las Vegas Review-Journal, Adrian Iadarko. Adrian, one of the newest Las Vegas Raiders, and tight end Jason Witten is showing his support for the Black Lives Matter movement. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. So new Raiders tight end Jason Witten, like you said, spoke out to support the Black Lives Matter movement. And he said he's seen the pain and he hears the passion from the black community, and he just wants to help. And this is a big deal because Jason Witten is a prominent white man from the South. So when anytime somebody like that speaks out, it has potential to resonate in an entirely different community.
Some of my best friends and people that I respect the most, they had a much more challenging situation than I did. And the big reason why was because of the color of their skin. I think that Black Lives Matter, and I would communicate that to all of my fallen.
Well, it is really great to hear Jason Witten standing up for his community and the players that he suits up with on Sundays. Well, let's move on with some more great news here, Adrian. And it looks like wide receiver Henry Ruggs III will be bringing maybe a future Raiderette here to Las Vegas. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, for sure. So the Raiders are quickly becoming a team full of girl dads. Just recently, Derek Carr and his wife announced that they're expecting their first baby girl. And now Henry Ruggs announced the birth of his daughter on Instagram, saying it was the day that his life changed. So congratulations to Henry Ruggs and all the new girl dads on the Raiders.
All right, Adrian. Well, you love to see it. Thank you so much. Well, you will want to stay with us because when we come back, I will be joined by Las Vegas Raiders wide receiver Tyrell Williams as he discusses how racism has played a part in his life and how he hopes to use his voice to make a positive impact. Stay with us. How many games did John Madden lose on Monday Night Football? Was it 1, 2, 3, or 4? Stay tuned for the answer. Welcome back for another episode of Vegas Nation Blitz. I'm your host, Cassie Soto. I am pleased to be joined this week by Las Vegas Raiders wide receiver Tyrell Williams. Tyrell, I appreciate you stopping by.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Well, Tyrell, I want to start with what's been in the news and the headlines recently, because I think it is important to keep this conversation rolling and showing our support for the Black Lives Matter protesters and everything they're trying to do, really opposed to social injustices that we have been seeing recently. And I want to mention what you put out on social media recently and sharing your message and how you experienced racism growing up in a small town in Oregon. Why was it important for you to share that message, especially during the times that we're in right now?
I think for me, it was like, I don't think a lot of people really understand the day-to-day racism that a lot of people may go through. So that's kind of why it was important. You see a lot of the police brutality and then the stuff that follows with the protests and all of that. And I think people kind of lose sight of just the struggle that some people go through day to day, that I went through as a young kid. And then I think that's continuing to still go on now. So I think it's just something that people don't really, I guess, pay attention to or just are aware that's even going on. So I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of what I had went through. I'm sure a lot of other people have gone through kind of the same situations.
How do you think that the NFL and even the Raiders organization now are they doing enough, do you feel, to help the fight against social injustices that we're seeing?
I think we can all do more. Honestly, I feel like myself, teammates, just everybody can do more. But I think we are, starting to do more than we have. I think people are starting to pay way more attention to it. We've had a good conversation this morning, actually, as a team, and just guys giving their experiences and their opinions of what's going on in ways that they feel like will be the best to start little steps and making things better. So it's definitely been a good conversation, and we're starting to move in the right direction. We just got to make sure that we continue this. It can't just be a month-long, week-long thing. I think it's something that needs to continue throughout the season, next off-season. It's got to be something that's always on people's mind, and we're doing stuff continuously to work through this.
What would your advice be to kids who were in that first, second grade that you were in when you experienced stuff like this, who are going through what you called an identity crisis, who don't know how to stand up for themselves, don't know what to say to people when they hear, them be called horrible names? What is your message to them to help them get through this now that you're an adult and you can see the lasting effects of racism plays in a child's life?
I think it's that you're just not alone. I think that was the biggest thing for me. I kind of felt alone. I didn't really have any, role models or anybody that could help me through that type of situation, So that's something that I really want to do is just build some type of foundation or something to be able to, have an outreach for kids going through that. I feel like for me, I had nobody that really looked like me at the school. And when I did bring issues up, no one really paid much attention to it. And it was just an apology and a move on. I think the biggest thing is just like educating teachers and people that are in the administration on ways that they can help just be a support. It's going to be hard to completely eradicate the problem, but just being a support for both sides, and helping kids through that so it doesn't feel and doesn't have such a long lasting effect on them.
Well, it's definitely important to keep these conversations going. And like you said, to not just let it last a week or a month, but to keep it open and honest conversation. So I appreciate you opening up about that. But let's go ahead now and we'll move on to the football side of things here. Tyrell, last year, your team obviously had the lights and cameras of Hard Knocks in your guys' face. You had the whole ABR deal to deal with. Now we're all dealing with the coronavirus pandemic and the virtual locker rooms that you guys are having. Are you saying like, come on, man, can we just get some sense of normalcy here? Or is this adversity really help you guys to be a stronger team when it comes time to step on a field?
I think it's a little bit of both. We definitely want to just be able to go out there and play, or at least just have like a firm date of like, yeah, we can start here, and I still think things are just kind of up in the air. You don't know if we're going to have fans, you don't know. So there's just a lot of unknowns. So that's definitely frustrating. not know when you just get to go out there and play. But I think it is good because it just gives, especially guys who are new or young guys, the opportunity who haven't learned the playbook. They're able to really dial in. And, there's no excuse not to know. You can't go do anything. You can't leave your house, really. So being able just to lock in and focusing on that is big for the young guys.
Yeah, you mentioned those young guys. Obviously, no secret that your wide receiver room got some boost there in momentum. You got Henry Ruggs III, Lynn Bowden Jr., and Brian Edwards. Could these guys be the missing puzzle pieces that you needed these past few seasons to really put it all together and hopefully make that championship run? I know your team wants to go on.
For sure, I think they're definitely going to help. I think it's going to just make our room much more competitive. I think we'll have a much better identity as a group this year. Dealing with the stuff we dealt with last offseason and training camp kind of set us back a little bit, and there's a lot of distractions and hard to, really solidify what we wanted to be as just a group. And this year, I think it's going to be a lot easier. Despite not being able to be around each other, we're able to stay in contact and get to know each other through text and FaceTime and stuff like that. So I think it's definitely going to be easier for us. We're going to come out a lot stronger, a lot more confident as a group, and just have a better identity and, have a lot more fun together. I think the continuity is going to be way better than it was last year. So I'm excited for that.
Well, even though the NFL did cancel in-person mini camps, I know some of you and your teammates have been out here locally in Las Vegas and Henderson already, meeting up at local parks, just trying to throw the ball and get a sense of each other after not seeing each other for a few months. How has that been going for you guys? Are you getting used to this Vegas heat yet? I know it hasn't hit the high 100s, but it's getting there. I feel like I'm never going to get used to the heat. For some reason, I feel like it's not crazy, but it's just a different type of heat. The dry heat is tough, but it's been good. The throwing's been good. There has been a big group of guys who have been out here and living and have been working together, day in and day out. So I've been coming back and forth, and so it's been nice just to, see the work that they've been doing and then be able to come out there and get it in with them as well. So I think it's been huge. I think that will, benefit us a lot. Just be able to continue that through training camp and just have that momentum keep building. We know that the off season has been a little bit longer and not normal to say, but you had some more rest time, have some more time to recover. Can you give fans an update on the plantar fasciitis that you obviously went through last season? Can they get excited to hopefully get a full season out of you coming up? For sure. My feet are feeling good. Finally, it's been a long battle with that. But they definitely are feeling better. I'm able to run with no pain and feeling strong, feeling fast, feeling back to myself. So I'm definitely excited to be able to go out there and get in the game and feel myself again. It's been a while since I felt like that. So I can't wait. Can't wait to get back out there. Yeah, well, Las Vegas has obviously never had a professional football team, so there's still some fans who are getting used to Raider Nation and what that means. Can you give some Las Vegas fans some tips here on what it takes to be a member of the Raider Nation? What do they need to know? Sure, you gotta come wild every time. I think that's the biggest thing that was going on in the Coliseum is the black hole, and just that type of environment was always insane. They're coming in full force every week. So I think that's the thing to be ready for. I think that's very unique to Raider fans and Raider home games, is just how wild and how into the game everybody is. All right, Tyrell. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking some time. No problem. Thank you. Once again, that was Las Vegas Raiders wide receiver Tyrell Williams. After the break, Heidi Fang and Adam Hill will join us to discuss the possibility of the NFL shortening the preseason. Stay with us. The answer is A, 1. Madden's teams went 11-1-1 on Monday night. The only loss was in 1974 to the Buffalo Bills.
Welcome back to the Vegas Nation Blitz. I'm your Vegas Nation podcast host, Heidi Fang, joined with our NFL writer, Adam Hill, and we are going to talk a little bit about what could happen in the NFL preseason as we know it, which is normally 4 games, but now reports are saying that it could go down to 2 depending on what the owners decide and the NFL decides. Adam, how probable is it that this happens?
Well, I think you said what the NFL decides, what the owners decide. I think it's going to be what the virus decides, because I think if you end up in a situation where there can't be fans at a game, it really kind of takes away the motivation to have those extra preseason games for these teams. I think it's pretty likely that you go down to 2, and what that does is a couple things. First of all, they haven't had a whole lot of time on the field for practices. They haven't been together very much, a whole virtual offseason. So it gives you more practice time, more time to get in your systems. And you have to prepare for those games. You have to take a day to travel. The game day takes away practices too. So I think teams would be pretty happy going down to 2 games. And what it does as far as more instruction time with your own team, I would not be surprised at all if they go down to 2.
How much of an effect do you think that this could have on younger players, newer guys to the team that are trying to fight for a roster spot?
Yeah, that's usually your time to stand out. You get on the field and you get some reps in and you show them this is what I can do in a game situation. So you're going to have to do it more on the practice field. You're going to have to make yourself known to your coaches and stand out on the practice field instead of having those game reps. It's going to be tougher there too because, like we said, a lot of reps for the starters because of the offseason, the way that it's gone. So you're really going to have a time constraint to try to stand out if you're one of those younger guys.
If they were to do this 2-game format, would you imagine that it's 1 game at home, 1 game away, and then would it be at the earlier part or would it be at the later part?
I think you might do like week 2, week 4, but the way that it's scheduled, like you'd have to change some things around because not everybody would have 1-1 there. I would assume they're still going to try to go to 1-1. They might just redo the preseason schedule in that case because you've really got to try to figure out the logistics of when the right games are to be played and when it works out best for you as a team.
Adam Hill, thank you very much again, as always, for all of that insight, Adam. And I am Heidi Fang. You can catch up with everything we do on VegasNation.com and download the Vegas Nation app. But right now, I want everybody to make sure you stay tuned and watch as we take a look back on the Raiders going to Super Bowl 11 and taking home their first Super Bowl victory. In this episode of Raiders history, we look back on the franchise's first Super Bowl win against the Minnesota Vikings. On January 9th, 1977, the Raiders would face the Minnesota Vikings in Super Bowl 11. The Raiders had made their first Super Bowl appearance at Super Bowl II in 1968. They faced Vince Lombardi's Green Bay Packers and lost 33-14. John Madden was hired as the Raiders head coach 2 years after the loss. He led the Raiders to 6 AFC Championship games, though they lost 5 of the 6 prior to making it to the Super Bowl. The team's season was near perfect. With a season record of 13-1, the only loss came to the Patriots in Week 4. En route to the Rose Bowl, the Raiders first defeated the Patriots and narrowly won 24-21 and would head on to the AFC Championship where they would face the Steelers. The Raiders had faced the Steelers in 2 previous championship games and had lost to them each time. This time, the score wasn't even close. The Raiders finished off the Steelers 24-7 to advance to the Super Bowl to face the Minnesota Vikings. Quarterback Ken Stabler was under center and Fred Biletnikoff was the top receiver in the game. Led by an offensive line which included Gene Upshaw, Art Shell, and Dave Dalby, the Raiders acquired 429 total yards during the course of the game in what was then a Super Bowl record. Another Super Bowl record for that time was that the team put up 288 yards in the first half. Though the first quarter was scoreless, Earl Mann got the Raiders 16-point scoring feast going in the second quarter, converting a 24-yard field goal. Tight end Dave Casper then caught a 1-yard pass from Stabler to secure the first touchdown of the game. Pete Banizak crossed into the end zone on a 1-yard carry for the third Raiders score, and the Vikings went to the locker room scoreless at halftime. As time ticked away in the third quarter, Vikings quarterback Fran Tarkenton would connect with Sammy White on an 8-yard touchdown pass. The Raiders scored twice more in the fourth quarter to stretch their lead. Willie Brown intercepted Tarkenton and returned it to the house 75 yards for another Raiders score. Though they would miss the extra point, by that time, the team had taken a commanding 25-point lead in the game. The Vikings did score on another touchdown with 25 seconds remaining on the clock, but that's what experts would call a garbage time touchdown. The final score of Super Bowl 11, the Raiders 32, Vikings 14. The Raiders went back to Oakland where a parade was held in their honor. MVP honors went to Fred Biletnikoff, and head coach John Madden would retire 3 years later. That'll do it for this episode of Raiders History. We'll be back next week.
The Road Ahead, sponsored by Capriotti's, now slicing extraordinary. The road ahead for the Las Vegas Raiders is getting closer and closer to its final checkpoint as we are just under 45 days away from that July 31st completion date. Here to bring us the latest from Allegiant Stadium is Allegiant Stadium insider for the Las Vegas Review-Journal, Mick Akers. Mick, we have seen a lot of movement over on the site recently, so can you just give us a general update of what's been going on over there?
Yeah, one of the most notable is the first what will be 4 digital billboards, a 3-sided, all black, true to the Raiders forum. They're supposed to have the Raiders logo on there somewhere as well, just looking at the plans. The first one of those just went up just off of Dean Martin. So that I see another one's waiting to be installed right in by the north end where the lanai doors are as well. So we'll start seeing those start popping up here, throughout, I'd say, the next couple of weeks or so. Looks like they're also slated to start work on their marquee billboard sign. It's going to be about 180 feet tall. Obviously, the signage, the video board on the stadium is going to be the largest sign at the stadium, but this one's going to be a close second there on the exterior. So I'll see that work coming up here pretty soon.
Well, Mick, we are halfway through June, and we know that this month was the target date to get the Raiders Henderson training facility complete. What's the latest there?
Yeah, they're still targeting moving in by the end of the month. Got some interior pics sent to us. So it's our first look inside there, in several months. We're in there when, it's still like concrete and dirt everywhere. So now it looks like, it's heading toward the finish line. Some of the hallways, it looks a little modern architecture with the Raiders, silver and black to it. It looks, really cool in there. The field house looks completely done. 1.5 indoor fields. You can see the Raiders markings all inside there. The Intermountain Healthcare Performance Center sign on the back. And then the cool feature of, the 3 levels of the offices that overlook the field house. The third level has a balcony, so the coaching staff out there can just, get a bird's eye view and get on the balcony and see what's going on out there. Cafes coming around there. Obviously, they showed the 3-story atrium lobby. That's going to be a nice feature when, the guests walk right in. The Raider image store is supposed to be in there with some memorabilia, including the Vince Lombardi trophies. So looks like, it's ready to go.
Well, thank you so much for the update. We appreciate it.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's edition of Vegas Nation Blitz. If you're looking for more Raiders fast takes and smart coverage, head on over to vegasnation.com or follow us on any one of your favorite social media platforms. For our Vegas Nation crew, I'm Cassie Soto. Thanks for tuning in to Vegas Nation Blitz.